Hey everyone, thanks for joining. Before we dive into today's topic, I invite you to take a moment for yourself. Find a quiet space, maybe dim the lights, and just breathe. This isn't just another video. It's an opportunity to explore a philosophy that could profoundly transform the way you see yourself and the world. We're about to unpack the incredible wisdom of Montaigne, a thinker who understood centuries ago what many of us are only just realizing today. So, get comfortable, relax, and let's embark on this journey of self-discovery together. And if you find value in this discussion, please consider subscribing to the channel and giving this video a like. It really helps us share these insights with more people. Let's begin. You bend yourself to fit where you don't belong. You mold yourself to be accepted by those who never truly saw you. You erase yourself so as not to bother, even when everything inside you screams for help. Since you were a boy, they taught you to be good, but no one explained the price of it. Being good meant saying yes when you wanted to say no, smiling when you wanted to explode, being strong when you were falling apart inside. You became an expert at not disappointing, and with that, you became a stranger in the mirror. Every step you took, every choice, every relationship, everything was a reflection of the invisible voices that shaped your identity. Men don't feel. You have to make them proud. Don't disappoint your mother. Don't be weak. Don't be selfish. Don't make mistakes. And in the silence of obedience, you lost your own voice. But what if none of that ever mattered? What if the world wasn't paying attention? What if no one ever thought about you as much as you thought they did? The question hurts, because if it's true, then who are you living for? How many years have you spent trying to prove your worth? How many relationships have you sustained for fear of being alone? How many jobs, decisions, friendships, dreams were shaped not by your essence, but by the fear of being rejected? And now you're there, full of achievements that don't fulfill you, full of connections that don't touch you, full of duties that don't liberate you. Maybe on the outside, everything seems right, but on the inside, you're exhausted. You know what I'm talking about? That anxiety before a date, that anguish when posting a photo, that paralyzing doubt when making a decision. What if they don't like it? What if I disappoint them? What if they think it's not enough? What if you're living another man's life because you never had the courage to live your own? The truth no one wants to admit is this: the man who lives to please becomes a hostage to everyone and master of no one, not even himself. You may even be admired, but are you truly loved for who you really are? Perhaps you're good at reading environments, at avoiding conflicts, at carrying the world on your shoulders with a smile on your lips, but deep down you just want to rest. Rest from pleasing, rest from controlling, rest from appearing. You want to be, but being requires one thing you've spent your whole life avoiding: courage. Courage to frustrate. Courage to disappoint. Courage to say, "This is me," without a mask, without a filter, without a performance. And this is where the journey begins, because there's a man who saw all this, who understood centuries before us that living to please is dying slowly, that trying to control everything is losing control of what matters. While his world was crumbling in wars and blood, he retreated to a tower not to escape but to understand. His name was Michel de Montaigne, a man who exchanged power for introspection, ambition for lucidity, and who wrote truths so raw and liberating that they still echo today like a slap in the soul of those who try to be everything but themselves. This video is about that, about you stopping violating yourself in the name of acceptance, stopping seeking love in gazes that don't even see you, stopping carrying a weight that isn't yours. We're going to talk about detachment, but not that self-help cliche. Real detachment, detachment from what suffocates you, what molds you, what empties you. Detaching isn't giving up, it's remembering who you were before you got lost. And maybe, at the end of this journey, you'll discover that you never needed to be anything other than yourself. But for that, you'll have to cross one thing: the fear of disappointing. What if I told you that your biggest enemy isn't failure nor criticism, but the fear of disappointing those who were never truly looking at you? If that hurts you, stay, because now we begin. From an early age, a man learns to perform, not with makeup, but with bravery, with reason, With silence, he learns to be the strong one, not to cry to protect everyone but himself. And this mask is heavy, but he holds it because everyone seems to expect it from him, and he just wants to do well. Since he was a boy, the good boy is rewarded, the one who does everything right, the one who doesn't cause trouble, the one who is praised by adults, praised for not showing pain, but the price is high. He grows up afraid of being a burden, afraid of making mistakes, afraid of disappointing. And that's where the wound is born, the wound of having to be everything, when in reality, he's not sure who he is. He seeks approval from his mother, his father, his teacher, later from his wife, his boss, his friends. And everything he does, deep down, is to hear one single thing: you are worth it. Only that validation never comes the way he expects, or it does, but it evaporates. It doesn't fill him, because it's not his. It's from the image he created. And worst of all, the more he tries to please, the more he loses himself. Because to please, he needs to hide parts of himself. The anger he feels, the sadness he carries, the doubt that gnaws at him. He becomes an edited version of himself, functional, but empty. He is the man who does everything right, but feels wrong, who achieves a lot but feels little, who is admired by everyone but himself. Life becomes a theater of expectations, and he is the main actor and the only one who can never leave the stage. Do you know this man? Maybe it's you. You who swallow your tears in the car, who smiles in photos but feels a tight chest, who pays bills, meets goals, solves problems, but no longer knows who inhabits this body that drags itself every day. You who hear, "You're amazing," but think, if they knew the truth, they wouldn't say that. This is the cost of pleasing. It's high, it's invisible, and it's lonely. Because the man who pleases too much loses the right to be true. He becomes an emotional service provider. He attends, he solves, he understands, but no one asks, "What about you?" And when someone asks, he freezes because he no longer knows how to answer. He forgot what he wanted. He forgot what he feels. He even forgot what he dreams. And this is where the wound turns into a prison, because the man who only exists to please begins to live in fear of being himself. And do you know what's most cruel? This type of man is desired, is praised, is even loved, but almost never truly chosen. Because deep down, everyone feels something is missing, presence is missing, courage is missing, soul is missing. And not because he doesn't have it, but because he had to hide everything to be accepted. This is the dilemma of the good man. He is liked, but not whole. And when he tries to show himself, he frightens. When he says no, the world finds it strange. When he fails, he is criticized. When he cries, he is seen as weak. And when he finally explodes, he is called ungrateful. That's why so many men prefer to remain silent, prefer to swallow, prefer to die slowly, but pleasing. But what if this is exactly what prevents you from living? What if this craving for acceptance is your poison? What if pleasing too much is distancing you from your truth, your power, your freedom? The man who cannot bear to disappoint never experiences the power of being. And only when this wound truly bleeds, when he looks at himself with brutal honesty, does he realize the true pain is not being rejected, it's never having been truly seen. And perhaps this is the first step of detachment, letting go of the need to be loved for what you are not. In the next chapter, we will meet a man who understood this with rare clarity. A man who, instead of himself naked with all his vanities, inconsistencies, fears, failures, and instead of hiding, he wrote and wrote with a serene brutality, without moralizing, without self-pity. He said, "I do not portray myself whole, only as I see myself at this moment." This phrase is not a license for mediocrity. It is a permission to be real, and that is where Montaigne becomes revolutionary. In a time of appearances, he chose truth. While the men of his time tried to appear strong, right, and coherent, he confessed his vulnerability as one who offers an offering to lucidity. And it was precisely because of this that he became eternal, because he understood something that almost no one understands. The mind that tries to control everything destroys itself, but the mind that observes itself frees itself. Montaigne almost died in a horse accident. He lay between life and death for days, and on that threshold he realized nothing is guaranteed, nothing is permanent, and control is a refined illusion. After that, his view of the world changed. He stopped trying to understand society and started trying to understand man, the common man, the man who feels, the man who stumbles, the man who is afraid and pretends not to be. And in every essay he wrote, Montaigne sculpted a new way of thinking about himself, a way of living without the obligation to impress. He taught us to unlearn pride, unlearn performance, unlearn the rigidity of those who need to be right all the time. And perhaps that is what is missing from men today. In an extreme of shouted opinions of perfect images, perhaps what is missing is silence. Silence to listen to oneself. Silence not to react impulsively. Silence to realize that sometimes what you seek most is already there. It is just buried under layers of obligation. Montaigne did not preach isolation. He did not lock himself away out of weakness. He withdrew out of wisdom, because only in silence can we hear what the soul cries out. And if today you feel too tired to keep performing, if you feel that the weight of pleasing, of winning, of being the right man is crushing your essence, then perhaps it is time to go up to your tower, perhaps not literally but symbolically, to create a space within yourself where you can finally be you, with flaws, with doubts, with life, not to give up, but to breathe, not to flee, but to return whole, because a man who knows himself frightens less and transforms more. In the next part, we will look directly at the biggest invisible prison of modern masculinity, the desire to control everything, and the deep fear of failure. Prepare to dismantle the armor. Have you ever noticed how tiring it is to live trying not to disappoint anyone? As if every step were monitored, as if every choice were a risk of being rejected, as if truly existing were a constant danger. It's a prison without bars, but you feel the cell every time you remain silent to maintain peace. Every time you force yourself to smile while your soul is exhausted. Every time you hesitate to be sincere, not for fear of making a mistake, but for fear of losing the acceptance of others. In the beginning, it seemed like just a way to be kind. Then it became a way to survive, but now it has become a character. You became an expert at fitting in. You adjusted your speech, pruned your gestures, even edited your thoughts. You created a socially palatable version of yourself. And the more this version pleases, the less it represents you. This mask is light at first, but after years it weighs tons. And this is where the paradox is born. You spent your life trying to become someone admirable, and in the end you became someone invisible. It's not that no one sees you, it's that they see you wrong. They admire the reflection and not the source. And perhaps that is the reason for your deep exhaustion. You're not just overwhelmed, you are disfigured. Disfigured by trying too hard, by never saying no, by avoiding confrontations, by carrying the guilt of others, by living for an acceptance that never lasts, never fills, never is enough. You are afraid of being rejected, but the truth is that you already reject yourself every day, every time you silence yourself to fit in, and that exhausts you inside. Michel de Montaigne understood this exhaustion as a form of soul sickness. He said, "My life has been full of terrible misfortunes, most of which never happened." The phrase is simple, but it reveals a cruel truth. You live anguished by scenarios something you need to understand. No one is going to free you. No savior will come. No right moment will come. No magical praise will come that will cure your fear. There is only one door. Give up performing and choose to live. When you let go of control, the mask, the plan, you start to breathe again. You start to speak again. You start to exist, not as a pleasant character, but as someone real. And the world may even find it strange. It may even abandon you. But you will finally begin to find yourself. There comes a time when the soul simply gets tired, not out of weakness, but out of saturation. You spend so much time trying to sustain everything, the image, the roles, the stability, self-control, that the body begins to fail. The mind begins to sabotage. Life begins to scream. You don't know if it's anxiety, if it's sadness, if it's contained anger. You just feel that something inside you is imploding. It is at this point that some people sink, but others awaken. And awakening is not beautiful. It is sweaty. It is dirty. It is uncomfortable, because it does not come with celestial light. It comes with rubble. It is as if what you sustained with so much pride, the socially perfect mask, suddenly broke in half. And then one day you find yourself crying over a small thing or exploding over a trifle, or simply can no longer pretend interest in mundane conversations, and you feel shame. But what you don't immediately realize is that this is your soul stopping accepting crumbs. It is it saying, I can't stand being ignored anymore. It is your true self trying to return. Weak, shy, staggering, but authentic. Michel de Montaigne understood this process not as a failure, but as a liberation. He believed that when you stop interpreting, you start to live. And when you start to live, your eyes start to see again. You begin to realize that much of what hurt you, people did, but what you allowed in exchange for acceptance. You begin to remember yourself, your small desires, 2 dreams you put off, the limits you never set, and little by little, almost with fear, you begin to rebuild your inner territory. You don't need a manifesto, you don't need a dramatic cut, you just need a gesture. Start saying no, where before you smiled. Start saying enough, where before you were silent. Start choosing yourself knowing that they will find you strange. And yes, some will distance themselves, others will call you changed, arrogant, selfish, but what they don't know, what they will never understand is that you haven't changed. You just came home. You just dismantled the theater. You just stopped playing the role of the perfect supporting actor to assume, with all your flaws and greatness, the protagonism of your own existence. And even if the stage is empty, even if no one applauds, for the first time silence will feel like freedom. So, now that the mask has fallen, what remains? What remains is you, without edits, without molds, without the weight of having to appear right all the time. You might look at the chaos your inner life has become and think, lost. But if you look again with courage, you will realize you only lost what was never yours. The rest is there. Your core, your truth, your power. Michel de Montaigne knew this. He knew that the soul only flourishes after the fire. After you stop trying to convince the world that you are well and finally start healing what the world didn't see. And no, you won't become an unshakable being overnight, but you will learn a simple and radical thing. You don't need to be admired to be whole. You don't need family approval to have peace. You don't need the validation of friends to respect yourself. You don't need a position, a number, a compliment. You just need to look at yourself and, for the first time, not abandon yourself. From now on, the most difficult training begins, knowing when to be silent, knowing when to speak, and above all, knowing when to leave. You will learn to leave unread those who only seek you when they need something. To be silent in the face of provocation, not out of fear, but out of sovereignty. To be alone by choice and not out of lack of options. To be kind without violating yourself. To be profound even when everyone around chooses superficiality. You will learn to exist without translating yourself, because those who truly see do not need captions. Montaigne would tell us that detachment is not abandonment, it is presence. It is you choosing where you put your energy. worth spending your lucidity, and where it is better to keep silent. You will make mistakes, yes, you will give in, you will want to go back to the character, but one day, when the cycle is repeating itself, you will remember this point. The moment when something in you decided no longer to accept the price of performance, and on that day you will no longer sell yourself for applause. You will no longer beg for space where only your draft fit. You will choose to be whole, even if alone, even if without an audience, because whoever learns to be enough for themselves becomes a magnet. But not for just anyone, for those who have also stopped wearing masks, for those who don't want you edited, for those who are willing to find you and not project onto you. This is the point. You no longer need to hide. And if today now you feel that lump in your throat, that choked cry, that urge to disappear for a few days, don't blame yourself. It's just your soul warning. Thank you for listening to me. Now I can breathe.